So, welcome everybody to the first ever episode of Community Connections, where we uncover the stories of remarkable individuals in our community. My name is Mattiaswallington, and today I'm honored to be joined by Mr. Dueck, a physics teacher at Pitt Meadows Secondary School. Mr. Dueck holds a very special place in my heart as he taught me Physics 11 back in 2016, making him by far the best teacher I personally have ever had. His passion for teaching and innovative approach have not only inspired me, but also countless others. Mr. Dueck's commitment to excellence in education has been recognized with prestigious awards, including the Prime Minister's Teaching Excellence in Science Award and the 2021 CAP Award for Excellence in Teaching High School Physics. Join me as we dive into his journey and the profound impact he's had on his students and the community. First things first, I wanted to thank you, Mr. Dueck, for taking the time out of your day and just doing this.
It's truly my pleasure. I just want to add a couple of comments. You used the word remarkable. I would say I've been remarkably lucky. I have a job that I love and they're dumb enough to pay me. And so that's lucky. Secondly, any awards that I have won are absolutely a reflection of the great students that I've had and the colleagues that I've been able to work with and learn from. So all of these are we awards, not me awards. Just wanted to get that out of the way, but
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I always love talking to my former students.
That's awesome. Well, that's exactly why I chose you, because that response you just gave, I know exactly how you think and how you feel about all your students and what you do. So that's why I chose you. So my first question for you would be, what exactly inspired you to become a physics teacher?
I started out wanting to become a teacher. So I was lucky. I had a very good high school physics teacher, a guy named Jeff Cowell. When I first started teaching physics in 2003, I would go to conferences, and if I mentioned that I had Jeff Cowell, all of the older physics teachers, you had Jeff Cowell? I'm still using his materials. And in fact, one of my proudest moments is he won a Prime Minister's Teaching and Excellence Science Award as well. So that was one of my goals, was I felt I could kind of carry on the torch. But anyways, so I thought about teaching, and then the summer of my grade 12 year, before I went off to university, I spent the final 2 weeks volunteering as a camp counselor at a summer camp. And that was the first time I'd worked with kids. It was, I think, a 10, 11, 12-year-old camp. And I had a blast, loved it. And I remember thinking, okay, maybe if they'll pay me to work with kids, maybe that's something I want to look at. And so I was actually a full-time camp counselor for 5 summers. I'll take you back. Do you remember Miss Van Nuys or Miss Froyen?
Of course, she was my homeroom for like grade 8 and 9.
I was her camp counselor. I'm
wow,
that
really?
old. Oh, yes. So I did that for 5 summers, and I loved every minute of it, but I noticed working with teenagers was challenging, but I was pretty good at it. I saw some other people were not so good at it. And so I kind of initially was thinking about teaching intermediate grades, grade 5, 6, and 7. But I really liked the challenge of working with teenagers. And so I kind of headed that way. Then it became, what subject am I going to teach? I started out as an English major, and I had a math minor. And I noticed that in my math classes, there was like 8 of us. In my English classes, there was like 50 of us. And so I kind of figured it's probably going to be easier to get a job teaching math. So I started teaching in 1997. I was a full-time math teacher. Then in 2003, the physics teacher here retired, and they were going to have to lay off a good young science teacher to hire a physics teacher. So I kind of raised my hand and said, well, I'll give it a try. Yeah. And that kind of snowballed from there. Best decision I ever made.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I was actually when I was doing research for this, I was looking you up, and I didn't realize you actually post every single lesson on YouTube.
Yeah, I started doing that around 2010. In about 2006, I saw my first tablet PC where you could write on the screen. And I remember thinking, oh, I like that. Just for math, all of the notation is such a pain to type. And so I bought one, I'm going to say around 07. And at that time, I was just putting my stuff online as a PDF file. Okay. But even that seemed to be connecting with kids. I remember I had a class of grade 10s, and this was the non-academic math class. These are kids that generally, it was like pulling teeth. And I had a student, I'll call him Ty, not his real name. And he was away first block. And then by 10 in the morning, I got an email from him. Hey, Mr. Dueck, you haven't put the notes online yet. Where are they? And I
Hmm.
remember thinking, okay, something's twigging with this kid. Okay. And then the following year, I had another student, really neat kid. I'll make up a fake name. I'll call him Bernard, not his real name.
Yeah.
Bernard, his grade 12 year, he had me for physics 12, and it was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to deal with. Around November, he began hearing voices that
Hmm.
only he could hear.
Hmm.
And he really began to deal with tremendous mental health issues, to the point where he had to be hospitalized for a couple of months. And we got him on medication. I think he was dealing with some type of schizophrenia where he was hearing things. And the medication worked, but he ended up missing November, December, January, February, which is a big chunk of the year.
Yep.
But he came back at the end of February, and he would just come into my classroom each day after school. Hey, Mr. Dewitt, can you print up the notes for this unit? And he would spend a week just working on his own. And then at the end of the week, hey, Mr. Dewitt, I'm ready to write the test that I missed. And at the end of the year, he finished physics 12, which is a really tough course, with I think a 92 or a 93. And it didn't take any extra time for me just posting my stuff online.
Yeah.
Then a couple of years later, I thought, okay, what if I can put videos online without any extra work? What if there's a way I can just hit record? And so I started doing that.
Hmm.
And then the following year, I had a math 12 class, and I had a girl in my class who had slugged her way the previous year in my math 11 class to a B. I mean, she had just worked her tail off to get a B. And I knew math 12, because there was a provincial exam still at that time, was such a jump. She was not going to have an easy time of it, but she signed up for it. She liked me.
Hmm.
And it was the Friday before the first big test on Monday. And I had a bunch of students in my room after school, and I could tell she was lost, just
Hmm.
lost, didn't know anything. And at the end of the tutorial, she came by and she started to cry.
Hmm.
And she said, Mr. Dewick, I'm going to drop math 12. And I gave a lousy pep talk. I said, well, at least try writing the test. If you fail, at least you'll know you tried, which is such a terrible pep talk. So, okay, I'll try the test. Monday, she wrote the test, and Ty, I still remember marking hers Monday night. She got a B, and I remember going through the test, counting it twice, and just beaming like, "Wow, what happened? I don't know."
Yeah.
Tuesday, I saw her. I said, I won't say her name. I said, what happened? He said, well, Mr. Dewick, on the weekend, I rewatched all 9 of the lessons for this unit. And it took me about 10 hours, but I'd missed something in lesson 2 that was killing me in lesson 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that's kind of where I started to realize, if you give kids a chance to learn on their own time, they'll take it. And so I've kind of been preaching that ever since to any other teachers. Put your stuff online. I'm not naive enough to think that I'm the best teacher for all of my different students' styles. On a good day, maybe I'm the best teacher in my classroom, but I'm not even sure about that. Let's find a way for other kids to learn and empower them to learn on their own pace. So that's what led to putting stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a long answer, sorry, but you're going
No,
to get
no,
long answers from me. That's how I go.
no, that's great. Yeah, I thought that was really impressive. I was taking a look, and that just almost shows with the first question, like your passion you have for it. And then this is going into my next question. It's a good segue.
Yep.
So how has that passion evolved throughout the years? I can see what you just said. That's sort of an answer. Like you just keep on innovating and choosing new ways to help your students. So how has that passion evolved since you've started to now?
This is my 25th year, and I'm surprised that it stayed this high. I haven't yet had a Monday where I wasn't psyched and pumped and ready to go to work. I
Wow.
love my job.
Yeah.
I thought I'd start to get tired of it by now. So first of all, it comes from the kids. The kids are great every year. I'm smiling right now. I'm thinking about kids that I have this year. It's my happy place. There's just, how can you ever get enough of seeing a kid struggle with a concept, and then you actually see their body jerk as they have that aha moment when a bunch of dominoes just fell into place and they've realized that they could, how can you ever get enough of that?
Yeah.
I love that. So that's kind of what keeps me going. Then it's just about how can I increase those aha moments.
Yeah.
And Yeah, but it comes from the kids, and has it evolved? It certainly hasn't dimmed, which I'm kind of a little surprised. It's starting to creep me out. Like, dude, calm down a little. But I tell my kids on the first day, I'm sorry, but you're going to see me having fun in class pretty much every day. I hope it's contagious, but I'm having the time of my life here. This is my Disneyland, so
Yeah.
let's have at it.
Yeah, and what you said there, like the almost the enlightened figuring out something in a math problem or physics. That was the one class where I'll say maybe it was because you were the teacher and some of the other teachers, I won't name names, were sort of less into it. But so when I got it right with you, it was a bigger a deal for me.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, of course. But I think physics was like the one where just the topic as a whole, I think kids even understand. It's such a big deal. It's so cool. Um, yeah, that's awesome. So I have a quote here for you from you from when you won your award. Receiving this award allows me to give credit to all the outstanding teachers who have mentored me over the years, and to thank all of my phenomenal students who inspired me and brought me joy every day in my classroom. So my question is, what did it mean to you being recognized for those awards? And actually, wait, sorry, before you do that, can you explain to me the difference between the two awards?
Uh, two different committees. That's the obvious answer. So the Prime Minister's Award, I had actually had a colleague approach me. See, I won the award in 2019. Around 2015, and they wanted to nominate me at that time. And I said to them, I'm not good enough yet. I want to take it another level. You were right around the year when I was trying to take Physics 11 to the next step, where I thought, okay, I got Physics 12 running pretty good. I
Hmm.
think I can really inspire kids in the previous grade. So it was right around 2016, 2017 when I
Okay.
completely redid it. So you might have had the good course. And I wanted to try and improve enrollment. I wanted to try and get kids psyched about science in general and physics in particular. Okay, so then
Yep.
in 2019, I was approached by this same teacher. I said, okay, let's do that. The Prime Minister's Award, it's vetted by the Prime Minister's office. And I knew about that award because I told you my former
Mentor.
physics teacher had won the same award. So my
Yep.
kind of my Yoda. Um, and so basically, you have to get a couple of letters from students recommending you, and a letter from the principal, and a couple of teachers.
Hmm.
And it goes through a committee of some type. I really accepted that one also because I was hopeful that winning that award would give me a voice to speak on behalf of my colleagues. There's a saying that says it's tough to speak truth to power. In other words, it's tough to tell your boss that you think they're wrong. And I thought this might give me a way when a colleague, especially a younger, newer colleague, is uncomfortable. They can come to me and I can say on their behalf without mentioning their name, hey, superintendent so and so or principal so and so, I'm just going to tell you this. This is how some staff are feeling. You can take it or leave it. Don't
Yeah.
shoot the messenger, but I can do that. The CAP award, the Canadian Association of Physics Award, this is going to sound a little less prestigious. So I was on the BC Physics Teachers Association executive, just as a member at large for a few years.
Okay.
And sometimes no one's been nominated from BC for that award,
Hmm.
and no one had been nominated from BC that year. So we kind of took my prime minister's package, changed a few things, and they were like, "We got to nominate some Kelvin. Let's nominate you." And so, again, I don't mind it because again, it allows me to speak on behalf of specifically now physics teachers that are trying to say, "Hey, we need more money for resources or whatever." So the difference between the two awards is primarily, it's going to sound strange, but two different committees. The
Okay.
Canadian Association of Physics Teachers, all physics people. There's actually a bunch of university awards. They also give awards to university physics teachers,
Okay.
as well as a high school for each province award.
Okay. So you would say which one are you more proud of?
The prime minister's one because Mr.
Yeah.
Cowell won that one.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
one, that one. Um, I I'll tell you a small secret. So this tells you that I do have a pretty arrogant opinion of myself as a teacher. Remember Miss Cruz? You had
Yeah.
Miss Cruz? Okay. About 15 years ago, her and I were talking,
Okay.
and I told her that was one of my goals.
Hmm.
And so she was the second person I told after I won the award. After my principal, I had to tell Miss Schwartz because we had to go through a whole procedure.
Yeah.
But then I quietly called Miss Cruz. I said, we're not allowed to broadcast this, but you and I talked and you kind of mentored me.
Yeah.
So she was one of the
That's
ones.
awesome.
I am proud of that one because it is a reflection of all the great colleagues that have propped me up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was honestly shocked to see you not winning more awards. I'm sure more will come. Like, I can't even say I'm sort of doing this series because I want people to I don't know, there's not a lot of people putting good content about people online. It's usually doom content and bad, future's bad, this kind of thing. So I want to start attracting people to, good schools, good cities, anything like that. So that's why
Yep.
yeah, I was not surprised at all when I saw you won awards, but I was surprised that you didn't win more.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, of course. So, how do you think teaching physics has shaped your perspective on life outside of the classroom?
I think one thing, just having a bit of I'm a bit of a weird mix because my degree is in mathematics.
Okay.
I took first year university physics and I could never fit it into the rest of my timetable.
Hmm.
So first of all, I teach physics very mathematically. You noticed that when I taught you, I'm
Yeah.
sure I said things like, don't memorize this. I'll teach you how to derive it, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is I read a lot and I'm pretty self-taught. I've read a lot of physics textbooks and
Okay.
watched a lot of good sciencey YouTube stuff. Okay. I think having an understanding of physics, first of all, I think I tend to take a science-based skeptical view when someone presents something oogie boogie new to me.
Hmm.
I love my mom, but occasionally some of the medical advice she comes up with, okay, I have
Yeah.
to take that under advisement, Mom. I don't think that passes the sciency test. Boy, if she hears this, she's going to be grumpy, but that's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
But even you probably noticed during 2020, there was a lot of garbage about COVID being a hoax like, I mean, my goodness, there are flat earthers now, for example. I'm
Yeah.
just, okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is it gives me a filter or a lens through which to filter other opinions.
Okay.
The other thing, and I hope I never lose this, Ty, the universe is cool. It just is. And if I do my job right, I just got to get out of the way and kids will see that the universe is cool. And I just love being curious about sciencey things. I watch nature shows all the time. I
Hmm.
watch sciencey shows all the time. And I hope I never lose that, oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
The universe is just neat.
Yeah.
And that's certainly a part that I carry with me and I don't turn off.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's one thing that definitely stood out to me, and I don't know if it's for every kid. Probably not. Probably just each to each their own. But physics was the one class that I struggled in high school, just wanting to pay attention to most topics, and physics was the one that I actually really enjoyed, and it was probably the hardest class I was in. So, okay. So, how have you seen the field of education change since you started teaching, and what do you think the future holds for education?
That's a great question. And that's actually one of my passions to talk about. I'm a little concerned that there is a trend, especially in the junior grades. Here's what I'll say.
Okay.
Okay. Somehow, so I used to coach basketball.
Yep.
Okay. And let's suppose I coach grade eights, which usually means it's their first year of playing organized ball. And you have kids that have never picked up a ball before.
Yeah.
Okay. Today, I'm going to teach them how to do a right-handed layup. So first, without dribbling, we're going to learn how to put it up with your right hand. And as soon as they master that, now I'm going to add a level of difficulty. Now you're going to do it dribbling. Okay. Now you're going to do it 2 dribbles. Okay. Now I'm going to make you go fast, so fast that you're uncomfortable. Okay. Now as you go up, I'm going to bump you in the air. So you're going to get used to making that layup with some contact. Okay. Now guess what? We're going to repeat, but with our left hand. Our left hand? Yeah, our left hand.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, and kids can't do it. I expect them not to be able to do it right away.
Yep.
So we practice. We expect in sports that failure leads to success. Somehow in school seems to be the only place where if you don't get it the first time, quit. Or if you don't get it the first time, we'll just bump you through.
Yeah.
If I could change one thing, starting in kindergarten, I would glorify failure, not as a negative, as a positive. You didn't succeed, Ty. Did you try your hardest? Good. Let's try again. I'll bet you'll get it next time.
Yeah.
So that kids aren't scared of not succeeding. It is something I've really tried hard to build in my classroom. I don't know if I had it when I was teaching you, but I stole from another really good teacher a slogan that I now have on my wall. It says, mistakes are expected, respected, inspected, corrected. And what I really mean is, if I do my job right, I tell my students, I want you to get comfortable making spectacular mistakes, and then you laugh at yourself, and that's how you, I mean, I want mistakes where you run into the wall full speed, nose first, and leave a silhouette in the wall shaped like you running into the wall so hard. That's how we learn. I would love to try and somehow build that into our education system. But to me right now, we're doing our kids, our district has decided that grade 8 and 9s automatically get promoted no matter what.
Yeah.
I think we're teaching them they're too stupid to learn. I really think if you raise your standards, kids will meet those standards. And not only that, I think kids kind of want the challenge. They kind of want you to hold them to a high standard. And so it bothers me that, especially in the junior grades, I think the pendulum has swung a little bit too much to, well, let's not challenge them. Let's not give them any stress. I think a little bit of stress can be a good thing, especially if you do it within the context of, I care about you, and I'm absolutely passionate, 100% convinced that you are capable of doing better, that you are capable of being more. That's something I would love to see changed. The other thing that has happened is just kind of the nature of education being a bureaucracy. I feel for young teachers getting in, the amount of paperwork and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. When you're a 25-year teacher and they throw yet one more form at you, you can kind of absorb it. I'm already doing 40 forms, 41, no problem. But when you're just walking into the job and you're going, oh, you mean I have to do all of these? Oh, and the report card has to be done this way. Oh, and how many phone calls do I need to? Okay. I noticed the younger teachers, the teachers in the last 3 or 4 years, most of them aren't volunteering for stuff. Many of them, I shouldn't say most, many of them, they're not volunteering to coach or to run a club. And I kind of get it because it's so overwhelming right now. I don't like that, but I don't know what to do about. It's a bureaucracy, and whoever's in charge always thinks, oh, let's do one more. Field trips is a classic example. I always, in Physics 12, I do an amusement park field trip. I've been doing that since 2003. It's the same field trip. It ain't the same form from 2003. It ain't the same amount of paperwork from 2003. It hasn't gotten any more dangerous than it was in 2003. Hasn't gotten any safer than it was in 2003. But boy, have lawyers got a hold of that. And that's just kind of dominoed all the way through. But for teaching, I would love to have a system where failure isn't stigmatized, it's glorified. You tried? Try again. That's how you learn.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I was reading an article the other day, and I don't want to say the exact numbers because I'll get it wrong, but I do think it was above 50% of American kids are graduating high school and not being able to read properly. And I actually think, so a podcast I was listening to was talking about this, and they were actually saying it's because they just keep getting pushed to the next level, without learning the right level. Yeah, it's interesting you say that.
And again, it takes work. And I don't want it to be a punitive thing. Ha ha, you failed. Yeah. But when I started teaching here, I was mostly teaching junior math, and we were semestered at that time. Yeah. And so I would often have a kid who, math 9 in particular, would have to repeat math 9. Ty, I can't remember it ever being anything but an overwhelmingly positive experience for myself and the kid. So if you were the kid who had struggled in math and you'd got like a 35%, and I had you the following semester, on the first day, Ty, I know you had a tough time last semester, but I'm confident second time through, you're not just going to get a 51. You and I are going to shoot for a B. In fact, if you get less than a B, I'll go grumpy bear, but I'm absolutely positive you can get a B or higher. And they always did.
Yeah.
Second time through, you would see them. Oh, that's what I missed last time. Oh, that's what I didn't understand last time.
Hmm.
It There's nothing wrong with repeating a course. I teach math and physics. I flunked first year calculus. I flunked first year physics in university. Took them again, got an A, and the
Yeah.
sun still came up. Yeah,
Yeah. I wonder if it goes down to the home life though, because for example, myself, I was not allowed to come home with a report card with anything under 80%, or all my tech was gone. Like, I wonder if
okay.
that failure that you're talking about is almost looming because of parents.
I think they play a role. I always think that three things: there's the kid, the parents, and the teacher, right? And
Yep.
it's a three-legged stool, which
Okay.
are the least stable of all the stools out there. And if any of them is uneven, you're gonna have a wobbly stool.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the stool has to fall over.
Okay.
It may mean that we need some little stool adjustment,
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
wobbly adjustment. Um, yeah, that might be. But to me, right now in our district, our system is such that the kids understand. I talk to the junior teachers, the grade 8 and 9 teachers, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, we got a lot of kids. They don't bother studying for a test. They just cold turkey it because they know they're going to get passed no matter what. So
Yeah.
why would they put an hour of studying in to get a mark that means nothing because it's not on their transcript? And whether they get an A or 10%, they're still going to math 10.
Yeah.
Why would they put the effort in? Well, the problem is now they get to math 10
Yeah.
and they've got some serious gaps in their learning. And
And you need to know math 10
now,
through math 11.
yeah, and we only now have 3 years to get them caught up instead of 5 years to get them caught up.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So one of my last questions is going to be about COVID. So thankfully, I graduated high school in 2017, so I missed all that, and I'm actually curious how it went. So how do you think PMSS handled COVID and the school district, and what steps do you ensure, or did you ensure, to make sure that your students just kept learning?
um, I think one smart move the government did right away is the Ministry of Education said, look, your job is not to cover the curriculum. When the kids come back to school, because we were out for a few weeks and then coming back kind of not sure what was going on.
Okay.
Your job is to provide a safe place for kids to be kids and have their curiosity, like stoke that. But you're not trying to cover the whole curriculum. Cover what you can in the way that you can. That was very, very reassuring. I saw some situations, especially say in the US, where, oh yeah, they're still writing the same standardized test at the end of the year, cover everything. I had this debate with a colleague who teaches in a different district. So this colleague, when we went out after spring break, and it was distance learning for the remainder of the first year, the spring of 2020.
Okay.
And so I did one online lesson a week that kids could watch, but I made the decision early on that kids couldn't lower their grade. If they didn't do anything, I didn't know their home situation. Maybe they only had one computer for 5 humans.
Yeah.
Maybe both their parents had lost their job. Maybe having, 6 people in the same household, maybe they were all screaming at each other and getting on each other's nerves. So I made that decision where a colleague in a different district, they had a math 8 class and they were like, yeah, I'm going to fail these 12 students. And I said to that person, okay, the only way I would be comfortable doing that would be if I had been in every one of their houses and counted the number of computers and counted how many parents were out of work and counted how much time the kid had access to a computer to be part of the lesson that you were doing. So I think one of the things that with the government saying, do what you can to help the kids,
Mhm.
that was a really smart move. It took the
Yeah.
pressure off. I mean, it did mean that for a couple of years, kids had massive gaps, but we can deal with that.
Yeah. Of course.
I think they did a pretty good job with the sanitary procedures. I think based on what we knew at that time, it was far better to overreact than underreact. And I don't know if we overreacted. I think it'll be a decade or two before we have solid science where we can clearly say, oh, everyone wearing a mask saved this many people, or everyone wearing a mask did squadouche. Everyone washing their hands. All of us noticed I don't know if you were working in a place where you had to wear masks during
Yep.
2020. I didn't catch a cold for 2 years. I sure noticed that.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
okay. Turns out if I wash my hands all the time and wear a mask, who knew? Well,
Won't get
science could
sick.
have probably
Yeah.
predicted that. So that was good. I think the district did a pretty good job, especially when we went out in 2020 right away, of trying to make sure kids had technology. So when we came back, we went out after spring break and we came, and use air quotes, back, but the ministry or our district, I can't remember which, they said, look, the first week, don't do anything with the kids. Take a week to figure out how to do stuff online.
Okay.
I was pretty okay with that, but I spent that first week doing sessions with teachers actually all over Western Canada, even the Yukon,
Oh, wow.
showing them, here's how you can record a lesson with free software. Because I'm
Nice.
willing to bet you didn't get any money to buy new software to record your screen. And there's probably money available in a year or so, right? You know, it's the government, it's going to work slow. Here's how you can post a lesson so that kids can get to it. Here's some software that'll run even on a sorry old computer if that's what you have from your district, or if you have an old computer at home. So that part of things, giving people kind of a week to figure things out, I thought was a smart move. And then when the kids came back, I mean, we did the quarterly system in our school where you had the kids all morning and then a different group of kids in the afternoon.
Okay.
And then but you only had two groups of kids for 1/4 of the year. So that way
Okay.
you saw a total of 60 kids
That makes
to
sense. Yeah.
keep the number of contacts down. Again, not a fan of that system, but I thought that was probably the best compromise that our district could make. I know
Yeah.
Chilliwack, they went to one class for 6 straight weeks and then another class for 6 straight weeks all day. I love teaching. If you put me for 6 hours with one group of kids, that might be a challenge.
Yeah.
It was actually a neat experience for me. There was a Science 10 class, and because a lot of the kids with behavioral challenges were often all in the same support block, they got kind of potted together. So
Mhm.
we had a Science 10 class. I remember it was 22 kids, 18 were behavior coded out of the 22.
Oh,
And
wow.
they were going to give that to a rookie teacher. I said, give it to me. Because first
Yeah.
of all, honestly, I'm going to brag a bit, but I think I'm a pretty good teacher. I'd like the challenge. I haven't had to work much on my classroom management with Physics 12. Let's give me some Science 10 kids. And Ty, it was so much fun. It was a challenge.
How did it
There
go?
were
It went
days
good?
when these are kids who, an F-bomb is going to come out of them and then they'll feel bad afterwards. They'll
Yeah.
throw the stapler at their friend and then they'll feel bad afterwards. And there was a lot of that, but it was neat. They all enjoyed the teaching experience. It was, in fact, the first quarter. So this was their first time back in regular school for almost a half year after we'd been out. And three or four of them actually signed up for Physics 11, where they
Oh,
never
wow.
would have dared take an academic course. Mr. Dueck, you're teaching it? And of those three or four, I know at least two of them passed the course. One had major attendance issues,
Hmm.
and then actually their grade 12 year, they re-signed for Physics 11. We really connected. I loved that student to death, but they just couldn't get over their attendance issues. But I'll say it was still totally a positive. I'm so
Yeah.
glad I took that class. It was also just a good way again to, let's learn how to be aware of what's going on everywhere. And no, you can't throw something at so-and-so. It was a fun class that way. And Science 10 has some, neat materials.
Yeah.
So I thought our district and our government did the best they could. You always learn more after, but you start out by saying, okay, scientifically, we don't know much about the coronavirus, but it's kind of like this virus. So in the absence of evidence, let's try treating it and responding to it like this type of a virus. And as we learn more, oh, okay, maybe the 6 feet, the 2 meters, did it help? Did it not? We're still working on some of that, I think.
But did it hurt? That's the thing. Everybody's always so quick to judge what everybody did back then, but what
I
was the
think it
harm?
had an effect on the kids' social growth. So I'll give you a specific example.
Okay.
For 3 years, we had staggered dismissals and grades using different entrances. So all the grade 9 came in through this stairwell over here, and they were dismissed at thus and such a time. All the grade 12 kids came in through that stairwell. They were all coming in through separate grades. And one of the things I noticed, not this year, but 2 years ago when we came back to kind of full snuff, oh, the grade 8 kids, the grade 9 kids, and the grade 10 kids, they don't know how to navigate a crowded hallway, which sounds silly, but one of the skills you learned in grade 8 is, how do I walk in a big crowd with 1,000 people in the same hallways? Oh, 9 of us can't walk side by side, taking up the entire hallway. You can't do that. Or if you're having a conversation, you can't take up the entire hallway. You just kind of intuitively smoosh up. You learn that. And it was interesting. None of the kids knew any kind of hallway behavior. In fact, that's one I felt we had dropped the ball. I would have liked to have seen us be proactive. I thought one of the things the first month when we were back to having kids come in through any entrance at the same time is, hey, we should be teaching hallway behavior. How do you walk in a hall? No, you can't go sprinting through a hallway. It's crowded now. No, you can't all eat your lunch in a big circle in the middle of the hallway so no one can walk by. You have to, all those little things you pick
They're
up
used to it,
intuitively.
right?
They'd miss that. In fact, a friend of mine, my best friend, is visually impaired. He's got about 1% of his vision left.
Oh, wow.
But he loves going to Disneyland because everything is so well laid out. He knows every stairwell has a yellow stripe. He can see that. There's a railing. He can see that. He can leave his white cane in his hotel room and feel quote unquote normal. So shortly after travel restrictions opened up, he went to Disneyland. He just came back almost distressed. He said, Kelvin, toddlers don't know how to walk in a crowd yet. Because they were all staying at home. They've never been in crowds. So you'll be walking and they'll walk in front of you. They'll cut in front of you like 1 foot in front of mommy and daddy always stopped. Why wouldn't strangers stop? Mommy and daddy are looking for you. Strangers are not. So he was just like, the number of times he had to suddenly stop to avoid trampling a little toddler who hadn't learned yet how to walk through crowds. I'm betting there are hundreds of things like that we'll be noticing over time. But the other thing I know from working with especially kids, they're more resilient than we ever give them credit for. And so I don't think we'll have done, quote, permanent damage, which I've heard some people lamenting. You know what? Kids will recover. Why? They're kids. That's the beauty of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, to wrap things up, I wanted to let people I wanted to give you the chance to go over your little dice game that whenever people were late. Do you guys use that?
So I'm old school. I still think people should show up on time, and I think I can teach them that. And so, Ty, the whole philosophy, if I can change a kid's behavior by having them sheepishly laugh at themselves and realize how silly they look to all of us, to me, that's a much better way. I can raise my voice and go what I call full ogre. I can, I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's varied over the years. I've tried various things. I used to have tables that were all the same size in my classroom. And so if a kid was late, I would say to them, you're not acting like an adult. And my classroom rule is act like an adult. But don't worry, I have a child's chair for you. And I would give them a little kiddie stool so that when they sat at the table, they were sitting right up to their chin. And I would let them sit in that for about 10 minutes or so. And then I would swap out a regular chair. Ha ha. Okay. Then what? I started doing what we called the dice of fate. That's another one I've migrated to. So yeah, if you're late, because we live on the wrong side of the tracks, our school is on the wrong side of the tracks. I learned early on that kids will always lie and say they got stuck behind a train. And even if they're not lying, it means they were cutting it too close.
Yep.
So what I tell kids on the first day is I'm going to remove lates from my purview. I'm going to hand it to karma. When you walk in, you'll roll the dice of fate. It's a big foam dice, and whatever you roll will multiply by 5. That's how long you'll stay after school. If you're honestly late for a good reason, I assume karma will kick in, and you'll roll a 1. If you're full of it, you'll roll a 6. Now, if you did have an excuse and you roll a 6, well, then I'm sorry. but the universe doesn't like you. You got to say your prayers. You got to eat your vitamins. You got to start helping little old ladies across the street. You got to get karma on your side. Start volunteering in the hospital, whatever it takes, because clearly the universe has got it out for you right now. So
Yeah.
that's the speech that I do on the first day, or some version of that. And so it lets kids know I take late seriously,
Yep.
because it disrupts and interrupts. And also, if you're late for your first job all the time, you're probably not going to be lasting at your first job all that long.
It's a good habit.
And yeah,
Yep.
and it lets people know that even though I take stuff seriously, my preference is if I can get you to laugh and change your behavior that way, let's do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, that's one thing I've told endless people, like my girlfriend, all of her friends, about you in that dice game. I'll never forget it. Yeah, so that about wraps it up for me. I want to thank you again for doing this. Your dedication to your craft has truly taught me like the importance of hard work, but not only hard work, to be hardworking in something that you truly love to do, because you have to, or else it won't sustain. Yeah, so thank you again, Mr. Dueck, and thanks to everyone who tuned in episode 1.
Just
Yeah,
I'd like to just say one more thing. You know I'm going to talk, but
yeah.
to any of my former students who happen to listen to this,
Yeah.
I need to thank all of you for giving me the best job. Boy, you're going to hear emotion in my voice. I think to myself, have you ever been to Disneyland, Ty?
I actually haven't, honestly.
Okay. The way they have it set up, you go through the gates,
Okay.
the little ticket booths.
Yeah.
You can't see Disneyland. You go around the corner, 2 tunnels either way, and you come onto Main Street. And then in front of you, there's Sleeping Beauty's castle. There's a band playing. There's horses and chuck wagons coming toward. It's just wondrous.
Mm-hmm.
To all of my students, this is my Disneyland. When I walk into my class, and I have to thank all of you, I get the same energy rush that a 5-year-old gets when they see Sleeping Beauty's castle in the background, when they see Mickey Mouse over there, when they're so excited they have to stand on their tiptoes. When I come into my class each day, because of all of you, I get such an energy rush. When I'm having a bad day, you're my happy place. You're the place I turn my brain to. And as I think about all of you, I just feel so much better about life. I'm 54 years old. I've got about 7 more years maybe before I retire, but I'm optimistic for our future because of all of the kids that I've taught. You're all the best. And to see what you're going to make the future gives me hope. So I have to thank all of my former students for making this just the best job. They're dumb enough to pay me, and I do this for free, and it's because of you. I had to put that out there, Ty, because I am so grateful for all of the kids I've been privileged to teach.
And I'm sure everybody, while being in your classrooms, feels you being grateful, because it does rub off, and everybody wanted to be there. Like all my friends, we weren't the best in school, but I'm sure we were the most attentive in your class. Like we loved going to your class. Yeah, so thank you so much.
Now, I've been calling you Ty. Is it Matthias? Or because I thought I remembered it being Ty Wallington when I taught you.
So my legal name is Matthias, but I always went by Ty.
Okay, so I remembered correctly. I was a little worried, like, oh my goodness, have I been calling them the wrong name? It's important as a teacher. I want to get kids' names right.
I wasn't sure you were going to remember me, honestly.
No, I did. I went and look at the grad photos because it's been a while. I had to jog. The hard drive is fuller than it used to be, and it's an older model. It needs a good defrag upstairs, but I got you.
Yeah, that's
Thank you for reaching out to me. I really appreciate it. I love to meet my former students. Okay.
Yeah, hopefully we can do this again sometime.